All right, let's start Mind 2. The title here is Keys to Changing Your Thoughts, Belief, Visualization, and Intention. What you believe and how you see things, how you perceive things, determines much about how you feel. And we understand that because of Mind 1, we talked about how the words and the thoughts that you have in your mind determine the emotions you're going to feel. So the next evolution of that concept is a belief is a set of words. It's a set of thoughts. So it's very important that we pay attention to what are your beliefs and which ones are actually serving you, which ones are not, and taking a look at how to change those. Rewriting limiting beliefs is so important. So let's take a look. What is a limiting belief? For example, in the book we talk about if you're walking down the street and you see a man coming toward you from the opposite direction and you're on the sidewalk and you know he looks like he hasn't had a bath for a while, his clothes are torn, and you start getting nervous, you start tightening up because you have this belief that he might not be safe, that he might be, looking to harm you. It's, this is a belief that is limiting you from in that moment being able to breathe deeply and well, being able to walk with ease and trust and happiness. And the truth is that many, many, many of our beliefs are really unfounded. And just because perhaps we read in the paper or in the news one story about one person who did one thing, then we decide that everybody is like that. And we create a belief, which is a set of thoughts, and it's limiting us. And it's really making us not only feel less good in our lives, but it's also affecting our behavior, which limits how good we are in our behavior, how broad we are in terms of thinking of the world and showing up from a place of love and trust and ease. All that goes together. You have to be able to trust, to be able to open yourself up and be a loving presence in the world. So it's important that we take a look at beliefs and we start to learn to rewrite our beliefs. In this section, there's a 5-step process. First, I give you an example, and then I ask you to do it with yourself. So let's go through the example. The limiting a belief in the example is, I know I'm not good enough to go and take a writing class at a local college. I won't be any good at that. So there's your limiting belief. That's the first thing you'll do is identify one of your own. The next step is identifying for yourself, where did this idea come from? And in the case of the example, this person's father had told her that she wasn't very smart, and he knew she wouldn't go very far in life, and so therefore, you're only going to rise to the level you're expected to, and if when you're young, and then you grow up believing something that you were told when you were young that limits you, like, oh, you're not smart, then you're going to go through your life that way, and it's going to become your responsibility at some point to notice it, identify it, and then you have to take charge of letting it go and changing it, and that's what we're talking about here. So the next step is, what do you want to commit to? Well, in this case, I want to commit to being happier. It was in the example, which is why I'm reading the handbook, right? I want to be happier. So this is taking action on that. The next step is, what's my new thought going to be around this? Designing the words again. And in the example, it's all is well with me. I am smart. And you think about the things you've done that you know are smart, that you feel good about. I know I'm okay. Whatever I'm doing, I know I'll do this well, and my personal support mantra is, after all, I'm okay. So the next step is visualizing and seeing this thing that you want to do, the belief you want to change, seeing it in the new way. Create a picture with your words. In this case, I can see myself taking this writing class. I'm sitting in the classroom, and I'm enjoying every moment. I breathe deeply and slowly, and I can see this in my mind. And then the final step is that I notice I'm smiling there. You're thinking about what are the feelings you're having there in that picture. I am a little nervous, but I'm also excited. And I know this is going to go well for me. So the next part is where you're going to pause and really take some time here. This is deep work. I mean, you're going to feel some emotions here, and that's good because feeling our emotions is key to living our way into a happy space. If we block emotions, those blocked emotions will block our happiness. So remember to feel your feelings. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. When they come up, let them come up. And the more you allow them, the more quickly they'll pass through you and you'll move on to the better side of it. But when you put a lot of effort into stopping a feeling, it's going to stop you. So let's not do that anymore if you've been doing that. In our culture, we tend to do that. So here's your time to pause now. You go ahead, with the worksheet steps and fill out something that's a limiting belief for you and follow through on the steps. And then come back and we'll go on to the next part. All right, so in completion of rewriting your limiting beliefs, I want you to know that this was just a beginning for you. This is something that you continue to do over and over as you are noticing yourself, noticing your thoughts, and noticing the beliefs that are limiting you. Jot them down in your journal. If you're in a hurry or on the go and you just happen to notice something that you did during the day, write it down somewhere, even a Post-it note, and stick it on your dashboard. And when you get home at that night, take the note, go to your journal, and sit and do the 5-step process. This is such a great way to really create change in you, which is where your happiness is going to come from. It doesn't come from outside of you, only from inside of you. So that's what this work is about. So now let's move into visualization. And the next skill is called, if you can see it, you can make it so. It goes along with the tagline from the beginning, what you think is what you create. See it, think it, create it. So in this process, you're going to use your imagination, you're going to visualize. These are powerful tools to creating what you want. Years ago, professional athletes started using visualization in order to play their best games or create their best performances. The football player sees himself over and over running into the end zone with that football and spiking it when he's not supposed to. But that helps him move to that direction and do that thing. Maybe it's a tennis player, and over he simply visualizes his swing, and he becomes a better man at hitting the ball or a better woman at hitting the ball. That's the same way with your happiness. What do you want to create? You want to see things that are positive, nourishing, uplifting, where you're thriving and you're successful. That's what we're talking about here when we're talking about if you can see it, you can make it so. You can make it happen in your life. So an example here is when you awaken in the morning, and again, we talked about morning practices, this is one to add. As you're still laying in bed in the morning, it's a great practice every day to see the thing that you want to create in your day. This goes along with setting intention. We'll be talking about that as well. So you're laying in your bed and you're thinking, maybe you normally go into the office and everybody's energy is just kind of flat and low, and you notice that you tend to be flat and low too. And you know what? You don't want to be flat and low. And you can control you. So you lay there in bed and you see yourself, you're dressed for work, you feel good about how you look. Maybe you want to walk in with a bag full of bagels or a bunch of cups of coffee, or maybe you just want to walk in with a smile on your face and say good morning and keep that smile there, no matter what anybody else is doing. If they don't jump up and get happy with you right away, that's okay. You keep your level there. And it goes back to you being responsible for the energy you bring, whether you bring it into a room or whatever space you're in. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor has a famous story about, she is a neuroanatomist, so she studies brain, and she actually had a stroke. And the left hemisphere of her brain was not functional for quite a long time. So the right hemisphere took over, which is exceedingly receptive to feeling and energy. And it was very hard for her as she laid in her hospital bed to have people walk in the room with low energy or negative energy. And she actually began asking people, please be responsible for the energy you're bringing because it's really impacting me. Take that lesson into your life, into all the environments where you inhabit. And in this case, as you're laying in bed visualizing in your morning practice, walking into your workspace, walk in there with your best energy and keep it there. No matter what anybody else does, they will eventually come up to your level if you are consistent. More importantly, you will be nourishing your own happiness. That's so key. So I want you to stop and think about how can you use this principle, this behavior, this action in your own life? And think about this. Write some things here on these lines that you would like to change and do differently based on what you're hearing right now. Now we're going to take that same principle, and I'm going to invite you to get out your journal or your laptop, whatever you want to write with, and I want you to take this concept of seeing something and write a story. So not only are you thinking it and you're visualizing it, you're taking that visualization and you're putting words to it and you're putting it down on paper or in a document in your laptop. In this case, remember the example of walking down the street with the man walking towards you. Okay, you were seeing that. Whether you realized it, you were having little images of fear, of maybe this person's going to hit me, or I don't know, take my backpack. The power of that visualization was a story. So now you're going to write a story about what you want to create. And you can give it some structure in order to write the story. For example, what do you want to create in the next year? And here's how you do that. So here you are, you're sitting here now. Think a year ahead. 1 year from now, when you're sitting here, what do you want to be able to report that happened to you that you created in the last 12 months? I want you to get in that perspective, sit down and do your writing, and talk about it as though it's already occurred. And the really important and creative aspect of making this real in your vision is to bring your 5 senses in. I want you to think about what it would sound like where you are. What did it feel like? What was the temperature like? What was the weather like? What were the sounds that you heard, the things that you saw, the foods that you tasted? What did you smell along the way to getting to where you want to go? Maybe it's, the girl who wanted to take the writing course, and now it's a year later, and she's actually gotten a certification and she's been published. She sits there and writes this story, writing her story with all these details about how that happened for her. Now, back to the present moment. She's written her story, and now it's such a powerful aspect of her brain leading her into what she wants because she's already taken her brain on the journey. This is how you write your story to create what you want in your life. Powerful, powerful tool. I invite you to pause now, and if you don't have the time now to write the whole story, jot down some notes here to come back to about what you'd like to write your story about. And make a note here about using detail, how you want to use your 5 senses, and take time and go slow. This isn't one sentence saying, oh yeah, my goal is to be published in a magazine. That's not a story. That's a bullet point. I want a story. Make it long, fill it with detail. It doesn't matter about your punctuation or your spelling or any of that stuff. It matters about your heart and your soul and what you want. So write a story about that. Okay, good. Let's look at the next one. It's a little quicker and simpler, since that last one had a lot to it. This one is about quick fixes with your imagination and your visualization. So I offer you 4 thought triggers here. The first one is imagine people smiling at you. Visualize the places you love to be. Imagine things you love to see. And visualize things that make you laugh. So if you're sitting at your desk and you're stuck, or you're even, if you're in a meeting and somebody is going on way too long and they've lost your attention, and you want to shift your energy again and bring yourself back to a positive way of feeling, think of one of these visualization triggers. You can sit there and no one knows that you're imagining things you love to see in order to just shift your energy and bring yourself back as a better you sitting there in the room. So maybe you're sitting in a doctor's office and you're waiting for an appointment and you're nervous. Visualize the things that make you laugh. Shift yourself. You get to choose. Remember that this work about happiness, skills, and practices is about choice. You chose to have the book. You chose to be sitting here listening to the online course. Yay for you. Celebrating you, by the way. The point is, we're underlining that this is choice. And imagine the endless possibilities you can create in this moment, in this day, in your life, when you choose to think thoughts like this. So that's a quick fix tool for you. Powerful belief awareness. This is about 2 things: making assumptions and taking things personally. Miguel Ruiz wrote a wonderful book called The 4 Agreements, and these are 2 of his 4 agreements that he suggests that we make with ourselves in life. And one is not making an assumption, and think about how we do that so much throughout a day. And usually based on the assumption we're making, we end up feeling like something must be personal. So let me use this example of when you send out a text message and someone doesn't respond. What's that about, right? Text communication is hard enough as it is. But if you send out a text and someone doesn't respond, your default setting in your mind is to start thinking about, well, why didn't they? Don't they like me? Don't they like what I said? Aren't I important? you don't know what's going on, and it starts to feel personal, and that's a really uncomfortable feeling, and now you're unhappy. So making the assumption teamed up with taking something personally really cut your happiness right off. So the powerful belief awareness aspect of is this. The assumption becomes a belief. Again, we talked about beliefs earlier. Thoughts are beliefs, and that's what sets us up for either feeling good or not feeling good. Making an assumption, you can't possibly know what's going on the other end of that text message. There is absolutely no point in putting any energy toward it whatsoever. And as you do the happiness skills and practice work all the way through the book, you're going to get to a point where you feel so confident and good inside of yourself that making an assumption becomes less and less of a thing that you would even consider doing. But you got to start somewhere, stopping yourself. So be noticing yourself again. Oh, I just made an assumption. Oh, and now it feels kind of personal, that thing I made the assumption about. So you had a thought. The thought is an assumption. And then it triggered an emotion. Oh, it doesn't feel good. I think this is about me. This is something you want to stop. So let's develop awareness around it and make the choice to rewrite the assumption by just saying, I can't possibly know what's going on. I'm going to let this go. It's not about me. So that's the practice of powerful belief awareness. You want to do some journaling here, and around your noticing, keeping it simple, the things that you notice, and simply write how you would shift it now, knowing that you can't control the outcome of anything other than what you choose, and that you can't ever make an assumption and know that you're right or wrong. You have to just wait until later when perhaps you find out. So let's look at the summary now for Mind 2. We have rewrite your limiting belief. You want to spend some time on that? Did you put a check mark there? We have, if you can see it, you can make it so. Do you want to put a check mark on that one? Writing your story. Quick fixes with imagination and visualization. Powerful belief awareness, assumption, and taking things personally. Which of these did you check? And would you like to set some reminders for these, either in your phone or in your Post-it notes? Do you want to go ahead and schedule some of the activities around these and go ahead and open up your planner and schedule some time for that? Think it through. Take a pause. I'll see you at Mind 3. Good job. Keep going. You're doing great.